We are talking House of Demons, which is originally known as Trip House, which I feel actually would have been a better title, as I'll explain why in just a minute. And this is by the man Patrick Meany, who wrote and directed this movie. It's got a fairly interesting cast. In fact, a lot of these people are actually YouTubers. You've got Chloe Dykstra, who I think is from Machinima, and I've kind of seen her in a couple of other bits and pieces as well. You've got Tiffany Smith, probably best known for Collider Jedi Council and the Schmoes Knows. You've got one of the hostesses from the Superpower Big Down channel. So if you're familiar with kind of like film and entertainment YouTube channels, you may have seen some of these guys. I guess heading up the cast is Amber Benson, probably best known for her role in the Buffy the Vampire series. And the story here focuses on four friends who have kind of grown apart over the years through a kind of shared tragedy that they kind of all were involved in. And they kind of come together in this kind of like out-the-way house. But this is a house with some history and appears to be used in kind of a cult rituals and kind of like this weird sort of like Waco-style family, if you like, that have kind of done some weird stuff in the past. And as the story goes on, these kind of two timelines sort of merge together almost, and we have people interacting with people from different times and stuff like that. So it gets a little bit weird, suffice to say. The demons really are more metaphors, really. Don't expect too many literal demons. We do see kind of a guy with kind of demonic makeup and stuff, but it's really just metaphorical demons rather than literal ones. Now, I think the film fancied itself as being kind of quite arty, quite kind of like deep and meaningful, you know, exploring the kind of like the paths maybe we should have taken, fate and destiny and kind of relationships to other people. So it all does sound quite heady, doesn't it? But I've got to say the movie is massively self-indulgent, incoherent and a complete mess. So let's dive in a little bit more, shall we? I feel this is an example of where a filmmaker has an idea about what they kind of want to put on screen, and in their own mind it kind of makes sense, but when you are watching it cold and watching it as an audience that wasn't involved with this kind of production, it just comes across as a complete mess. The story is literally incoherent. You just the kind of like the timelines will just go in and out, and it's very hard to kind of keep track of where these characters are and when they are supposed to be. Loads of actually different flashbacks. The camera work is awful. I've never seen such poor camera work. You know, people out of frame, massively kind of like shaky camera with it's a static scene. I mean, if you are kind of going by the original title Trip House, I have to say some of this stuff feels like it may have been on purpose, and there are lots of kind of trippy moments in it, but ultimately it becomes a real strain to sit through as a kind of an actual viewer. The acting as well, I've got to be honest, wasn't fantastic. You know, they've hired lots of YouTube personalities that do have some acting credits, but they're not, you can tell they're YouTube hosts rather than actors for the most part, I've got to say. Amber Benson is obviously probably the most experienced and probably the best on screen, although I did like Morgan Peter Brown, I think his name is, as one of the characters. He was quite good. But ultimately, that everyone seems like they've kind of like, it's just gone through in one take, and they don't seem confident in their lines. Some of the lines seem kind of improvised to me as well. The story, though, is just the thing that is the biggest thing here. Is just a mess, and I don't feel this writer-director can tell a kind of coherent story, you know, to an audience that maybe isn't familiar with this production, if that makes sense. If you're watching this cold, you know, you'll kind of feel, what am I watching? It's like a bunch of images, basically. So if you just want to watch a bunch of images that are somewhat kind of trippy, weird kind of colour schemes and stuff like that, trippy moments, then check it out, you know, definitely. But if you're wanting a coherent story that kind of makes sense and doesn't just kind of like throw loads of kind of like ideas at the screen and sees what sticks, then maybe not this one. I've got to say, this was a real struggle to get through. I just found myself, my mind wandering off and trying to know, I've got to, you know, I need to know what I'm talking about in the review, but man, it was tough to sit through. Not a lot I can really say to recommend this one, if I'm honest. I try to kind of think, you know, oh, there's got to be some good things. I'm struggling with this one, I really am. It's kind of nice to see these bunch of YouTubers on screen in a weird way. It's kind of interesting to see them in a different light, but I don't think really any of them do a great job, if I'm completely honest. I mean, they're all small roles, so they're obviously, you know, it's a limited sort of sample size, but nonetheless. Oh God, this film was tough to sit through. I can't give it any more. 3 out of 10 is a absolute being generous with this movie. And you notice I haven't put any video clips on, and that is because whenever I slag a film off, the filmmakers always say, oh, copyright claim, because they want my review to come down. But I'm not doing it with this one, because I will not be silenced when I tell you about a terrible movie. So 3 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.